Bye, honey.
I don't believe I've met you before.
Do you still love your husband?
She could be so hot if she wanted to be.
I'd like to thank those who have supported my channel by watching, subscribing, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate your support and welcome you to my analysis of James Cameron's 1994 action comedy True Lies, written by James Cameron and based on the 1991 French comedy film La Totale. True Lies stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as Harry Tasker, Jamie Lee Curtis as Helen Tasker, Tom Arnold as Gibb, Bill Paxton as Simon, Charlton Heston as Spencer Trilby, and Tia Carrere as Juno Skinner. If you like this breakdown of True Lies, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the Godfather of Cinema, movie reviews and more. Give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and hit the bell so that you won't miss any new videos that I'll upload in the future. If you had to live two different lives as two different people every day, would you prefer to spend most of your time in the life that's boring, or would you prefer to spend most of your time in the life that's full of excitement and adventure? Most of us work a 9 to 5, meaning that there is a large slice of our lives and days in which we have to be one thing. The fact that we only have to be one thing for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is bearable. But imagine if you were restricted to being one thing 24/7 for your entire life. The bottom line is this:
They need some release.
Harry Tasker lives a double life. In one of these lives, he sells computers. He is a father and he is a husband.
One of these lives has a future.
However, when he leaves home for work every morning, Harry enters a second life in which he can be whoever he wants to be, cutting through the metal bars of his boring and restrictive life as Harry Tasker, for whom there are limits. However, coming out of the water on the other side, he is transformed into a government spy for whom there are no limits.
I got a little dick, it's pathetic.
And speaking of living a double life, there is also Simon, who is trapped in a boring job selling used cars. At the end of the day, however, Simon escapes the limitations of this existence by transforming himself into a government spy. In this fake role, unlike his real role as a used car salesman, he has many opportunities to have sex with women looking for a way to escape from their own limited and boring lives through him. But breaking free from the perceptions and expectations of others is not as easy for some as it is for Harry and Simon. For despite the fact that Harry's 14-year-old daughter Dana is at the age to where she is forming her own opinions about herself and life in general, Harry's perception and expectations of her are stuck in the past. Although she is now a young woman, he still addresses her as a little pumpkin, the same nickname he had for her when she was 10 years of age. He even gives her something corny that you would give to a little girl, a snow globe that he brought back from his business trip to Geneva, Switzerland.
The vet, get some wet.
Like Dana, Helen Tasker is unable to break free of roles that others expect her to play. Her roles as Harry's wife, a mom, and a legal secretary at a law firm have taken all of the fun and excitement out of her life and marriage, which has fallen into the same old dull routine. So much so that Harry does not even bother to make it home for dinner anymore. The truth of the matter is this: Harry and Simon are both liars. Harry is not a sales rep at a computer company, and Simon is not a government spy. But even though Harry and Simon are liars, there's a big difference in the impression they make upon Helen, who believes that Harry and his job as a computer salesman is boring. And this is what she finds attractive about Simon. he is exciting. And she can't get enough of him talking about his occupation and dangerous missions as a government spy, including her husband's role in a wild shootout that he takes credit for. Helen is so impressed by Simon's lies that she agrees to help him on a mission by pretending to be his wife. Harry loves Helen, but he's been with her for so long that he has gotten comfortable with seeing her in only one way, let alone seeing her as a woman with the potential to be sexy. In fact, he's become so comfortable and so confident of her fidelity that he doesn't see her at all anymore. Helen changes the script one day by telling him that she slept with the plumber to get $100 knocked off the bill. But instead of getting mad, Harry kisses her and rushes off to work. By contrast, Simon sees Helen with fresh eyes, even telling Harry
she could be so hot if she wanted to be,
with a little effort and encouragement. On August the 14th through the 21st in 1971, researcher Philip Zimbardo conducted experiments at Stanford University on the psychological effects that roles have on people. The experiments consisted of two groups, prisoners and prison officers, but the experiment had to be canceled after just 6 days because the group playing prisoners and the group playing prison officers began to embrace their assigned roles.
Do you still love your husband?
As a government spy, Harry Tasker is one person with his wife and another person when he is not with his wife. But Helen is also the same way. With Harry, she plays the supportive wife role that he in society expects her to play. However, when she is at work and not pressured to play the role of Harry's supportive wife, Helen's true feelings about him, their marriage, and his job comes out, such as the scene in which she cracks a joke about how his boring job puts her to sleep. Like Helen, who acts one way when she is with Harry and another way when she is not with him. When Simon is with Helen, he gives her his undivided attention.
Be cool, baby, okay?
He tells her how much he needs her. But also like Helen, whose opinion about Harry changes when she is not with him. Simon's opinion of Helen changes when he is not with her. Driving Harry around in a used Corvette, Simon, the used car dealer, and not Simon, the government spy, even cracks a bunch of dirty jokes about Helen, whom he sees as just another bored housewife that he plans on having sex with a couple of times. Between 1924 and 1927, researchers at the Hawthorne Works electric plant in Cicero, Illinois, conducted an experiment to see how different light levels affected worker productivity. The researchers were surprised to discover that any changes that they made to the light levels at the plant improved worker productivity, even when the researchers adjusted the light back to the original levels. As to why this occurred, because they were aware that they were being watched. The experiment also shows how people often change according to where they are. For example, Harry would never have known about Helen's alter ego if he had not stopped by her job to take her out to lunch and overheard her talking to Simon. And being that she always asks him about his job when they are at home, Harry would have never known how Helen really felt about him and his job as a computer salesman had he not interrogated her incognito at an undisclosed location. And she would have never performed a striptease at home as she does at the upscale hotel suite of the phony arms dealer that Harry had sent her to in order to plant a bug. And then there is Dana. In the script, Helen gives Harry a heads up. The vice principal of Dana's school called to let them know that she has been cutting classes. Prior to catching her stealing money out of Gibbs' wallet with the camera in the phony pack of smokes, it would have been too easy for Harry to reject the notion of Dana, his little pumpkin, cutting class. But now Harry will put nothing past Dana, whom he now knows is a completely different person at school than she is at home. Of course, she denies skipping classes and even plays the blood card by accusing him of siding with the vice principal over her, his own daughter. Also, like Helen, Dana, and Simon, Aziz also becomes a completely different person in a different setting. But unlike Helen, Dana, and Simon, Aziz manipulates his unseen observers by posing as one of the many laborers unpacking crates of Persian artifacts in Juno's office. Aziz blends in with other workers when asking Juno if he can see her in her office. Note his humble manner and stooped posture when they are outside of her office and out in the open. But the moment that they are inside of her office and out of the public view, Aziz's humble manner and stooped posture changes when he slaps Juno
We do not tolerate mistakes.
for letting her guard down by flirting with Harry earlier in the scene. Harry's personal safety, as well as that of his wives and daughters, is secured by lies. Therefore, being truthful with his wife and daughter is something he will never do. That is, not unless someone were to put a knife to Helen's throat, like Aziz does, in order to force Harry to authenticate the Crimson Jihad as a nuclear power, and in another scenario in which he would ordinarily lie, Harry is injected with a serum that forces him to be truthful.
Try the wine.
By telling Helen that their captors plan to torture and kill them. And speaking of forcing the truth out of someone who lies for a living, a con man would never admit to being a con man unless someone threatened to drop him over into a rock quarry. This is what happens when Simon admits to being a con man and not a government spy after Harry threatens to drop him into a deep quarry following the scene in which he catches Simon with Helen in Simon's trailer. In Boynton Beach, Florida, a beautiful young woman receives an urgent call from the police about something concerning her husband. They need her to come home right away. Someone had killed her husband. Or so it seems. The police take her to the station for questioning because the door to their home was open and there was no evidence that someone had broken in. He was shot twice in the head, they tell her, before bringing in a man in handcuffs. Has she seen him before? No, she tells the police, and they break out the handcuffs because the man she has never seen before is the undercover cop she hired to kill her husband, who is still alive and right outside of the interrogation room.
Please come here. Come here, please.
In this scene that occurred in 2009 as well as in True Lies, sometimes the only way to get the truth out of people is by not letting them know who you are. Simon, for instance, would have never told Harry that he had Helen panting like a dog if he knew that Harry was her husband. As for Helen, she would have never told the interrogator behind the glass that Harry was boring if she knew that Harry was the interrogator behind the glass. And she would have probably been too shy to put on the strip show in that hotel for Harry if she weren't under the impression that she was doing so for someone else. Why are virtual worlds so popular? Alternate realities like these offer humans an escape from a reality that is becoming increasingly mechanical and dull. Don't like your life? Just clip, copy, and paste yourself into a ballroom in Geneva, Switzerland, dancing with an exotic woman named Juno Skinner. Don't like who you are? Just fire up your video game console and pretend, as Simon does, that you are a super spy like Helen Tasker, saving the world from terrorists. After all, who cares about reality anyway when you don't have to live there all the time? Thanks for watching this analysis of True Lies, and be sure to hit the bell for part 2 of my analysis of True Lies, dropping soon. Until next time.